Hi, my name is Senta Rose, and this video is for Blooming Life Guide. And I have a Substack. This is going on as well as the YouTube channel. And I'm going to be talking about what spiritual counseling is. Get that question all the time. Is that like coaching? Is that like regular counseling? What do you mean by that? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I did the work to get ordained as an independent spiritualist church minister. It's not one of those ordinations where you just fill out a form and they mail you the ordination so that you can do weddings. This was one in which I actually had to do work, classwork and write papers and produce audio recordings and video recordings and so forth. I think it was audio only, but I had to produce things that I turned in order to get the ordination. And I'm in the process of writing a book also on the independent spiritualist church and what the church believes. And that kind of explains my belief system because I'm an ordained minister in that faith for a reason. It is my belief system as well. So I got the ordination not to do weddings. In fact, I am not interested in doing weddings. It doesn't mean that if a friend of mine got married, I wouldn't do the service for them, but I'm not offering that as a service. I wanted to be able to counsel people on a spiritual level that was not mental health treatment, to be able to incorporate spirituality in helping people make their lives better who were already functional. That means that they are somebody who doesn't identify as having a significant mental illness that needs treatment. See, in spiritual counseling, you can't bill insurance because you're not providing treatment for a mental disorder, when you have that kind of counseling. It doesn't mean that all of my skills as a psychotherapist doesn't show up, because I'm authentically me. I'm always going to have the psychotherapy skills that I have wherever I'm doing it at, but I'm not working with clients who need that level of mental health service. Spiritual counseling is when you have something going on in your life and you really want to talk to your minister about it. That's the bottom line. It's the kind of stuff somebody would say, you know what, I'm going to call the minister and see if I can talk to her and maybe, she can give me some points that I could think about, or a way of dealing with this that incorporates our spirituality, and a way of wording prayer that feels more effective, a way of doing spiritual practices that actually help me to feel better. That is what spiritual counseling is. And it is really effective at helping people to heal from past traumas, because I have special spiritual techniques to do that with that work best if somebody is not also having a significant mental illness. They need to have a certain level of functioning level in order for me to kind of delve into some of the trauma work that I know how to help people with. And so if you're having a lot of flashbacks, you're not sleeping at night, your self-esteem is like so low that you don't want to be alive anymore, that's not that you're not a candidate for spiritual counseling. If you've had trauma, but you're functioning normally now, you're able to work your job, take care of things that you need to take care of. And that may be that you're taking care of children, you're taking care of your parents, you're taking care of animals, but mostly you're taking care of you on a reasonable everyday basis. You're not very depressed. You're not having panic attacks, but you want to move ahead. You want to do more than just say, I'm coping adequately. You want to thrive. That's why I named my business Blooming Life. We want to bloom. We want to thrive. We want to have the best life we can. And all these people out there who want to say that if you've been through trauma, you're permanently damaged, we want to give them the finger. Oh, that wasn't the finger you were thinking of? Well, I'm trying to keep it G-rated. Sometimes I like to use the other finger too, if you get my gist. That one's the one we'll use for this film. You can heal from trauma. Absolutely. But trauma is stored energy in your spiritual energy field, and I can help you learn methods to remove it. And the methods I teach you are methods you can use so that you reach the point when we're finished with our counseling, you don't need me anymore. It's not that only I can take it away. I teach you how to do the work on yourself. So it's more effective if you're meeting with me on a regular basis, because there's a momentum that we build and a way in which you practice in between sessions the things that I teach so that you can gain the benefits. So spiritual counseling works best if it's every other week or once a month, not 2 or 3 times a year. But that doesn't mean we can't meet, a few times a year and might give you still spiritual advice and spiritual guidance, even though we don't meet more regularly. That's one of the differences between spiritual counseling and psychotherapy. We don't need momentum in it if that's not the kind of work that you want. If what you want is just to fine tune, you want some new ideas on how to work with something, you want a different perspective, a spiritual perspective on something, then we can do that. Like my energy healing, the aura and chakra healing is stuff that I do. A lot of people want that a few times a year, but other people get it once and then they go for long stretches before they ask for it again. It doesn't make that much of a difference, except how well you feel. I think you feel better if you do it more often, but it's not required that you do it more often in order for it to be effective. So, I love spiritual counseling. I would like to do only spiritual counseling and energy healing, because I really like helping people move from I'm just getting by to I'm thriving and I'm having a blooming life. I'm doing wonderful. That's what I love to see. And that doesn't mean I don't love working with psychotherapy. It's just that that's my personal goal for my business, is that become the primary thing I do. So how do you get spiritual counseling with me? Well, to begin with, it's a prepayment system. So you go into my website and you read the description for it, and then you're going to get a terms of service. And I know the terms of service is long, but it includes my professional ethics so that you know exactly where I'm coming from and that there's no second guessing. You really get to know what my professional ethics are and the work that I do with you. And also, because I'm a mandated reporter as a minister, I'm also a mandated reporter as a psychotherapist. It does include the things that I'm mandated to report because you have a right to know those things. So that terms of service is really important. You have to agree to it in order to move ahead. Then you have to prepay for the session. And as soon as you prepay or as soon as you have agreed to the terms of service and so forth, you're into the schedule and you click on the time zone that you're in. Don't worry about my time zone. It'll convert it for me. You click on your time zone, you pick a time and you pay, and then it will take you to the payment. I use Stripe, which accepts money from all over the world. And it is an encrypted, safe place to put your money. I encourage you to open an account. It asks you if you want to open an account, and I encourage you to do that because if there's ever any kind of problem, when I go into the back of the website to try to solve that problem, if there's no account, I might not be able to solve it. So I encourage people to go ahead and register an account. And then you have a confirmation email that comes to you. Now, I know so many people are just text only, but you're going to have to look at your email and you're going to need an email account in order to do this. Because that email that you get has the link. It doesn't come as a text. It only comes as an email. When it comes, you can save it to your Google Calendar or iCalendar. I think you can save it to Outlook as well. And you save it to your calendar, and when and it will send you reminders of the appointment ahead of time. And when it's time to have our session, you click on the link. Now realize that you're going to be in like a waiting room, and it might even tell you, do you want to join the session? And you have to click again. And then it might ask you if you want to turn on your microphone and your speaker, and you have to click on that. So you just have to pay attention to these things. I ask that you be in a private setting. Spiritual counseling is not the same as psychotherapy. If you actually choose to have your spouse or somebody else with you, I'm not going to refuse to have the session. In psychotherapy, I have to refuse, but in spiritual counseling, there can be somebody else there. It doesn't bother me if somebody's there, but it's easier for me to focus on you if you're the only one. I had a case happen where I was doing spiritual counseling with somebody and I got a really strong message. And it turns out her husband was just in the other part of the same room. Like they had a large open concept home, and he was in a different section of that open concept home. And I was getting a message for him because he was in the space. And that happened. And it worked out perfectly fine. But I'm less focused on just you if there's others there. So it depends on what you want. And while we're in session, if there's technical issues and so forth, we'll work with it. We'll try to solve it. I have business internet, so it's the strongest, fastest, most stable internet I can buy. And I have my computer plugged in directly to the router. I'm not using Wi-Fi. And that really is the safest way to do any kind of Zoom session because I'm using Zoom. So if you're able to be on a computer that's plugged into a router, that's the best choice. But make sure if you're on something else that you have charged it, the battery's full before we begin, because it'll be a full hour or close to it. It's not always a full hour, but it often is, pretty close to an hour that I'm meeting with people. So that's spiritual counseling. And I'm really looking forward to working with you. When you open it up, there'll be time slots available. If I get an influx of a lot of people, which sometimes happens, what's available might be weeks or even months ahead. That if that's the case, it really is. That's the first appointment I have. I don't have an earlier appointment, and I don't keep a waiting list for an earlier appointment. I've had people in the past ask me, I can't do it. I can't keep a waiting list because it's too complex for me to do. So schedule the first available appointment because that's the first one I have. And if you want regular continual appointments, once we have the first one, you'll have to take whatever is next available. I expect a little bit of an influx when I have been in a collab with another creator on YouTube, but then it usually settles down within 2 or 3 months and there's lots of openings available. So that doesn't mean that just because the first few have to be spaced out because my schedule's full, it won't always be full. It'll lighten up. And then of course, there's always the stuff that I do over in Substack. So that's another way for you to work with me. And so look for the link to my Substack. There's a free level of Substack, and then there's an $8 membership area. And that's another way to stay in contact with me and also to get a chance to ask me questions and so forth. Because in the paid membership area, I do Q&As with them. So anyway, looking forward to seeing you, and I will be doing another video. So I'll be pretty in pink for yet another one in just a few minutes.